Ukiwa na chai yangu niko fiti.
Una roll? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of the Playhouse. Excitos is the name, because that's how I'm feeling. I'm about to hear a journey and a half. With me, I have somebody who is pulling moves, not just in Kenya, but across, not just even in Africa, but globally. And I'm excited to just catch up with an old friend. It's been a minute, Bana.
It's been forever, bro.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And to just hear such an extraordinary story. A lot of you know him as a DJ. Another group of people know him as a producer. Another group of people know him as a musician. We're going to be hearing all about his stories. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for none other than Blinky.
What's good?
We're gonna have fun, blow the house down. Tunakamna masasa, sijaonekana aha. Chukua dakika kama tano uite mazima moto tumeshikanare. Wakichelewa watapata duni moshi imebaki juu. Maji haitoshi kuzima hii sauce.
I wrote a letter but you never ever see it. I made a promise that you'll never ever know. I think about you but you never ever notice. We might be better but you're probably okay. I'm here again, falling in love again. I'm here again, falling in love again. Nimepotea nisipatikane, lakini Mungu halali. Nasema kweli, oh, Mungu halali, oh, Mungu halali, ashajionyesha, anajionyesha, atajionyesha.
Sitaweka mkono juu, sema unafanya nini, unaenda wapi? Wasi Superman, wacha kujifanya hero. Unafanya nini, unaenda wapi? Wasi Superman, wacha kujifanya karigo. Kachonjo, hapana katu fwa karigo. Kachonjo, hapana katu.
Dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo,
dunia ina mambo bana,
dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo,
dunia ina mambo sana,
dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo,
dunia ina mambo bana,
dunia ina mambo.
Shannari madari down, everybody missing out. Desiba benko tukatika, distakiku skiza stories. Charity, nipple wings, need divide, gravity, zama. You took a wax musea, evacuate the area. You took a wax musea.
Nafanya sound effects zangu. Yani Blinky, nimekutafuta. Nimekutafuta, but I understand. Umse nilimtafuta alafu next thing naona photo na yeye na David Beckham. I was like, Lane, sawa. Sawa boss.
Sawa boss.
Anyway, dude, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the Playhouse.
No, thank you.
So here, Yani, we just have a real life solid conversation. Yeah. And I like starting to this first question. Yeah, no time to waste. Let's jump straight into it. When did you fall in love with music?
Man, you know, it's been a long time, bruh. I grew up in Isli, so used to go to Racecourse Primary School, and from my house to the school, we used to take number 9, mat number 9. So going to school, I'd have my early morning education with the mat because they'd be playing like R&B in the morning. I don't know if they still do that now. And then in the evening when I'm going back is hip hop. Mm-hmm. So it's like going psh. And then when I'd go home, my dad loved Lingala.
Okay, just for a bit of a background, eh? Yeah. Are you the only child?
No.
How many are you?
We are 3. I'm the firstborn.
You're the firstborn.
Yeah.
And when were you born?
Kitambo.
Was internet itaniambia.
Hiyo nitakuachia research.
Sawa kitambo. Alizaliwa kitambo. Okay, anyway, that's cool. Okay, so you're the firstborn brother and sister, or are you the?
I have a brother and a sister.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And you're born in Eastleigh.
Yeah, grew up in Eastleigh.
Yo, okay. Endelea with this story. So,
and then my dad used to play a lot of Lingala, so like would always be listening to Franco or Django music or Diblo Dibala, all these guys. And then my mom is a church person. But she just used to sing, so she didn't listen to anything specifically. And then in between that, I was classmates with guys who would later become musicians as well. So Musioka.
but this is not in. This is in primary.
This is in primary was Nini was Nonini was my classmate.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think Nani and one of the Ratemos, who Nani's sister, Clemo, was also, we were in the same class. And then eventually high school was Musioka. But anyway, just to show you that I've been in love with music from when I was a kid, and the circumstances made me that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so in primary, first of all, I was doing some research and I called Msioka and I'm like, Msioka, I need to ask Blinky something that that will throw him back like crazy. He told me, tell him to tell you about the time he broke his leg in Primo.
Well, Musioka broke his leg.
No, you broke your leg.
You know, that's funny, because I'll need to call him.
Told me,
Because I've had such a Nini life, man. I need to call him
to remember that story. Apparently, you were going to his house and you entered a manhole.
Oh yeah. So I was going to Musioka's house because, like, Musioka was way ahead in terms of just his entry into the music industry, and
let me say this is in primary, so you and Musioka knew each other from even before.
like we'd see each other. I think I was also with his brother in school in racecourse.
Okay,
I think so. So like we knew each other, and then there was a time when he was making music, and he was probably the only person who I knew who had any access to music making, like a comp. So I was like, man, I really want to just see what making music looks like, because I didn't have access to a studio. I didn't have any of that. So I was walking to his house, and then there was a manhole. And then I fell into the ditch. I don't remember what the next thing. I think his mom took care of me. But it's very fuzzy. Okay. But I when you've said that is when I've remembered. I think it had blacked out.
One of those things not remember. Okay, so who are some of the musicians you're listening to? Because your music is so versatile. You're telling me R&B on the way in the morning and then hip hop in the evening. Give me some of the musicians you're listening to.
Tupac, Biggie, Mary J. Blige. This was like Busta Rhymes, Missy Elliott. And I think that's why I have such a deep respect for those guys, particularly Missy and Busta, because those two were so ahead of their time. Where it's like, I think I went to a Busta Rhymes concert last year, and I was literally crying, because it was like, this guy to me was the intro to such the drums, they sound like very African drums. And then same with Missy. You can play those songs right now and they still sound fresh, like they still sound like they were made today. And then Michael Jackson, obviously, because I'm from that generation. Prince, like musicians. So I'm always thinking, even when I'm making music, I just want the drums to really bang, and I want it to be musical. I always want my music to be very rich in terms of the sounds, because like that's where I'm from.
That's where you go. Okay, let's move then into high school, because if I'm not wrong, that was another huge musical era in your life.
Exactly. Now that's where I knew Musyoka well, proper.
And just for those who may not know, where did you go to high school?
I went to Lenana.
Okay, and by the way, we're just next to Lenana.
So I think I was in class with 3 of the Nanoma guys. So it was Musyoka, Big Mike, and Steve Malala, who I haven't seen this whole time. And then, like, it was just interesting seeing Musyoka. He was always drumming, like on the desk. So it's like, Steve Malala is next to me. Then there's that division in class that allows teachers to pass.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is Musyoka, and then behind me is Big Mike.
What?
So it's like I've not even started making any music, but I'm just surrounded by these guys who are like rappers. Steve Malala would freestyle everything. He was always drawing and then freestyling. And then Big Mike can freestyle about anything. You tell him to rap about that pencil, create a rap from about that pencil. Then Musyoka is over there, percussion. Then there's a day, I think the Kina Kalamashaka guys came to school, and there was a music day or something like that. So it's Kalamashaka, Ted Josiah, but like that whole crew, Hardstone, those guys.
Yep.
And then they performed, and then my classmates were also like, because there had to be someone from school performing, and these guys went and kicked it. Like Musyoka was doing those Bone Thugs type raps.
Yeah.
And these guys just became like school superstars. I think we were in Form 2. And everyone was like, yo, those Form 2s, those guys are talented.
And hold on, let's say this. Again, the reason why I love the Playhouse is because I interview different people and they sort of bring perspective of what you're saying is normal was not normal. So Mugambi Thinga was Mugash. We call him Mugash. Mugash was a year or 2 ahead of you. And he says it was not allowed for Form 2s to be participating in the musical event. In fact, this is what Mugambi says.
Suddenly we had this drama, and I remember the drama committee guys being really excited. They were like, yo, there's this kid. The dude does just 1 drum. He doesn't have like 5 or 6 drums like the dudes of Dago. But give that guy anything to beat. He'll make, whether it's a desk, whether it's a little drum, whether it's bits of planks of wood, whether it's ninis on the benches, on the seats on the way to Drama Fest, this guy will make a beat out of anywhere. And I meet this kid and I ask him, yo dude, what's your name? Eric Musyoka.
I was waiting for that.
Eric Musyoka was a Form 1 drummer. That was unheard of then, because he was playing the drums and he was really good at it. So the third guy joined the chapel choir when I was in Form 3, he was in Form 1. And again, only once before had we seen a Form 1 coming and teaching us the songs. It was always the seniors who would teach everyone the songs. But there was this dude with a deep voice and big eyes. How was it everyone with the big eyes? Very expressive big eyes and a really deep, soulful voice for Form 1.
Yeah.
And he taught us a song called It Is the Cry of My Heart. And because he knew the words to the verses, he'd be like, you guys sing the chorus and I'll sing the verses. So we'd be like, it is the cry of my heart to follow you, to be close to you all of the days of my life. And then he'd sing, show me na 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 na, oh Lord. And we're like, this is a really good song. Now who's this Form 1? With big, very friendly dude. I said hi to him and I'm like, yo dude, that was a really good song. You taught us, what's your name? Sellanga. Okay, cool.
No.
What's your first name?
Chiki Blinky Bill.
Bill. So Bill Sellanga, that was the third. And I remember I was looking at these guys and we're like,
yo, all those 3 guys were in Lenana.
Yes.
K-Rapt, Musyoka, Blinky Bill.
Yes.
I mean, those three are the ones who you can mention. There are a whole lot more.
No, there were others.
So it's a big thing that you were performing, and you were also part of the guys who are doing harmonies and
Yeah.
things, teaching people
Yeah.
vocals at school.
So like, I think because I was coming from a different musical lane in terms of I didn't consider myself a rapper in that sense, and I was also not a singer, and still that's been me for a long time, where I'm not a rapper and I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
Like I'm in there in between. So sometimes I'll sing, but I think what for me was Nini was like, oh, okay, us we're just expressing ourselves. We didn't know what the rules are. I'm just like, and also those rules did not, to me, they did not apply to us, because it's like, why would you say that Form 2s are not allowed to be part of, man? That's some damn, that's a damn rule. So it wasn't even we were breaking rules. It was just we were being ourselves. And then also in the same house, there was a guy called Jim Chuchu. So, like, I think Jim used to play, and I think he still plays piano. I hadn't started playing any instruments, but I liked his touch on piano so much that we just became friends off of that. So he'd be playing, like I'd started writing music, and it was just really like gospel church stuff, because it was like I was coming from a very strict church, like mom who's like shikilia in the house, and you know African moms,
Yeah.
where it's like you cannot listen to
Tupac.
secular music. So I'd listen to it like kisirisiri, and you cannot, like, there's a bunch of things that you can't, but if you want some wiggle room, you can listen to church music. So it felt like that was an outlet. And Jim wasn't a church person, but also I think his mom was from a similar space. So we became friends off of that, and he'd be playing, like, his range of things that he was listening to was so wide. So, like, he knew, like, Prince of Egypt scores, and he'd be playing that stuff.
Whoa.
And then he knew a lot of church music as well. As like his range was so that was a cool friendship to develop at the time, because I'd write music and he'd play piano.
When you say you'd write music, it means a piece
I'd
of
compose.
paper. Okay, you'd come up with a song.
Yeah, I'd come up with a song, and then he'd do the piano arrangements, and then I was like, yeah, now I'm gonna teach this to the choir.
Yo,
Yeah.
dude, that's major.
Yeah, I think, yeah, sometimes I look back at it and I was like, that whole time was crazy.
So hold on, you've said a big thing there. At this time, you're already writing your own songs.
Yeah.
And then your Jim Chuchu is what we would call producing it by playing it on the piano.
Yes,
Even though, of course, you're telling him, no, make it sound like this
exactly.
at this beat.
I was
So
like,
you're co-producing.
I was co-producing. So
You're just
I did,
not an instrumentalist.
yeah, I was telling him, like, I feel like this is the rhythm, and then now he'd bring his own take on it, and then we'd come up with it, and then we'd go to the Nini, we'd go to the choir and tell them, like, this is how it sounds, and then Jim would play and I'd sing, and then teach the choir. As like they would sing.
And would you teach them even vocal arrangements? So would you teach them?
I wasn't very good at vocal arrangements then. So what I'd do was I'd source the harmony. So it's like if someone comes up with a good harmony,
You'd be like,
then
that's
I'd
the
be
one.
like, that's the one. So like we'll have that.
Yo, dude, I love the backstory. That's big, though.
Really?
Well, no, I mean, it's a bigness that you don't know that will play a part later on.
Exactly. And to be honest, and I think that's why I have such a deep relationship with music. It's like, and I've spent literally my life, like just listening to sounds, because I always feel like there's something there that we might be missing because it's not popular or because it's not big. So I have records where it's like Turkana music, and it's like there's something that we might be missing there because it's not a big record. It's like, and I feel like for me there's something special in it. So in terms of, like, I look back at it, and that was my musical education. I didn't go to a musical school to learn any of this stuff.
And at this time, have you picked up any instrument or bado?
No. So
okay, what happens next, or what? Continue the story.
What happens next is we finish high school, made all these friends, and then there's that 2 years after high school where it's like you don't know what to do with yourself. So I was literally just at home, and my mom had started playing guitar, and then she stopped. So she knew like 3 chords, and then she stopped. So I'm at home chilling. We have, like, there's not a lot of entertainment things that you have like we do now. So what do? I picked the guitar. There's a friend of mine who gave me some strings. I went and strung it and then started learning it. So I'd listen to songs that I really like, start learning on guitar, and then just start writing. And then I told my folks that I want to go to Daystar to learn, to be like the music production course there, because I think they probably I don't know who else has a music production degree in Kenya. Then we looked at the fee structure. Like, nah, that's not gonna happen. So I was called to KU to do sports science. Like, sasa hizi ni gani. Then I tried to change it, and then everyone around me was like, oh, unasoma kuwa PE teacher. I'm like, man. Like, I'm already in a bad situation, and everyone around me is making it worse by telling me that I'm gonna be a PE teacher. But yeah, those were traumatic days. But I tried to change it, nothing happened. So what ended up happening was like, okay, I was like, I'll just go. You know that thing people say, degree ni degree.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you don't feel like it. You're just like, life has dealt me, but the wrong card. So I go to KU, and the first few days, I'm walking around, and guess who I see? Jim Chuch.
Oh, sweet.
There's like, hey, I've not seen him in forever. So I'm telling him, oh man, now I've been playing guitar. And it's like, oh yeah, so cool. So we can start jamming. And then, like, we'd just start riffing. He'd play stuff on piano, I'd play stuff on guitar. But this time we're just writing a lot, like everyone's writing different things, everyone's listening to different things. And then in Jim's class was a guy who, we just liked him because he was a strange guy. It's like you just see him as he stands out, because like, wait, what is that guy doing here? And maybe that's how we looked to other
the guys.
people.
Yep.
So we became friends. This guy is called Daniel Muli. And then there was a place in KU called Ruenzori, and they had a RZ1, and they had a piano. And so we'd be going there. It was a dining hall, and we'd be going there to just jam and play. Like,
So now the three of you.
the 3 of us.
Uh-huh.
Then one day someone was like, man, I think we should start a band. And that's literally how Just a Band started.
Okay, let's talk about that name. So so what I'm hearing is Just a Band started when you were in KU.
When we were in KU, yeah.
Kenyatta University.
And we were all doing courses that we didn't really like. So it was more of frustrated
a release.
college students who want to make music, but we are stuck in courses that really are not the right fit for us. And it's also that thing for the education system where you're just taught to cram.
Yeah.
But it's not really a measure of your intelligence. So if you fail in that system, you're deemed a failure when it doesn't even measure the right thing. So it's like a like someone who's a footballer in a class where
In a volleyball.
or in like a biochemistry class. It's like there's a correlation somewhere if you really look for it. But if someone wants to play football, you take them to the place that leads them that direction. You can teach them a bunch of things that they need to become a really good footballer, but also things that open their minds, so that, because you're not always going to play football. But being measured in a place where we were not the right fit, we have like fish to go kwa beach, was killing us. So, but I think all these things conspired to make us like just learn more about music, learn more. Everyone was coming with, yo, you guys, have you listened to this record?
Aha.
I was like, oh, okay. So like Dan would be listening to like some guys from Iceland, bruh. I'm like, who in Kenya is listening to Björk? And then eventually, when my scope for music became super wide, you realize that these guys, just because they're not big here, doesn't mean they're not big.
Yes.
It's like, because we've been trained to think that if trap is what radio is playing, then that's the biggest music in the world. It could be, but the world has so much range and so much music. So for me, what that did was just open me up completely.
Man, this. I've listened to just a band music, and I'm like, where on earth did? So my first time hearing, then if you hear the music in the beginning, you automatically think these are kids who are broad, these are Barbies, these are rich boy kids, you know what I mean? Like how on earth did these guys even get to begin listening to this kind of music? But from your perspective, what I'm hearing is it is in university, and the three of you and all of you now beginning to work as one, that all these different sounds and music began connecting with you.
Exactly. And so like, let me tell you, there's once we were playing at South by Southwest.
I just threw that in, by the way. We'll get there, but okay, go on.
But I'm like, we were placed in between a chick called Tanya Tagak, who's a big musician from Iceland, I think, and then a choir from Chicago, and then a band from Nairobi.
What?
And so I was just listening to all these guys. The chick from Tanya Tagak played her set, and she's literally screaming into the mic like she was just yelling. There was no singing, there was no lyrics, nothing. And she has a drummer and a violinist and I think a guitarist or something. And it was crazy. It was like the front row, you can see people screaming and yelling, and then the people from the choir were looking at the back and praying, because they're like, this is some demonic this is some demonic stuff
going down.
So, and then we're in between, in the middle, and so that's a perfect description of how I started seeing things, where it's like, the range for me, there's no limit.
I hear you.
There's no, so even like, and that's constantly what I'm always gonna be pursuing as a musician, is to always be curious and to always be like, oh, okay, I'm not under any pressure to do anything because everyone is doing it. It's like I don't feel pressure. If I make something and I absolutely love it, I'll make it and I'll put it out. wale watu wataipenda kama uipendi ni sawa.
Definitely.
You have so many options.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's very important for artists to be free. And like, I remember there's a time I tried working with, I won't say the name of the artist, but I felt like, oh man, I have an idea for you. And it's a big, like, it's a good, because you've done so many things, this can be an idea in a different direction. And he said, my fans will not understand it. I'm like, how are you a prisoner to fans? And I can get it.
Yeah.
But in my view, artists are free beings. It's like, nikisema next week that I want to work with a Mugithi person, there's no one who'll ever tell me that you can't do it. Like, I'm fine. I've been free my whole life. I will do what I want. It's like, but that statement made me think, like how have you reached
How
a
have you
point?
allowed
Yeah.
to be your mind to be locked to the perspective where you can't do things outside
Exactly.
these people?
Exactly. And that's now the thing that, yeah, we need to, because it opens up the space, bruh. It's like, I'll look at Kanye West or any of those free artists, and you listen to their albums, and every album is different. And it's like, Pharrell has done raps in people's projects. He's sung BGVs in SWV. He's done songs with Stevie Wonder. He's done songs with Snoop. It's like, he's worked with some guys from Japan. Like, that's not someone who's thinking, Ati, my fans will not understand.
It's so funny. When I think of you, I think of Pharrell. That's actually a very good description. Okay, we'll
go back.
But feel free to go where you're going. I love it because you see, at this stage of university, your mindset is now beginning to get opened up.
Exactly.
Even before you've released your first record, before you've entered the studio, before you've done, your mind is already getting opened. Why the name Just a Band?
I think I came up with that name. Like, I think it was ironic in a way, because we didn't, for us it was an imagination portal. Like, it was a space where we were not even seeing ourselves performing or any of that stuff. We were just like, this is a space where we can create ideas and also it was also kind of like, we're technically not that good. Like, we've seen bands, we don't feel like we're that good in that sense. It's more of, we are just these guys who are a band, so we are just a band.
But already, you see, your mind was already opening up. That name, Just a Band. Guys should be like, no, the tightest. At that time, guys are thinking of the dopest band.
The dopest.
TDB.
TDB.
The dopest band. You get.
Top dog band.
So we guys are just like, we're just a band. I just like.
Yeah, because also, like, our interests, in as much as we loved music, our interests were varied. Like, I think I was the purely music person in that sense. Like, the rest of the guys had, like, were getting into video, we were doing, like, Dan was learning animation, and still, music is what brought us together, but we had very varied interests. But for me, I was kind of in there as a sponge, just learning from these guys, because I felt like I was surrounded by such clever, intelligent people.
You know what you guys were? You were the geeky band.
Yes.
You were geeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like,
you are geeks.
Literally. So for me, I was just like, man, how do these guys do that? And it's not even a technical thing, like how I was more in awe of how they were thinking. Because, like, they're some of the cleverest people I've ever met or worked with. Yeah, so
So where do we go on from here? So now you guys are you're in Kenyan University studying things that you're not per se passionate about. You've become this band called Just a Band, outfit band, whatever you want to call it, group called Just a Band, and now you're beginning to throw. All of you are throwing your ideas into this pot called Just a Band. So what happens next?
So
And you're playing guitar.
I'm playing guitar.
Now you're an instrumentalist.
I'm an instrumentalist. So I think we all left KU at some point. Didn't finish.
By left, I mean dropped out. It was like, this wasn't for me.
It's not for me. And there's things that I really appreciated about KU, where it taught me a lot of things, and in retrospect, I think that was why I was there. Not necessarily to learn sports science, which I got a couple of things, but more the critical thinking aspect of university, which it pushes you to question things. And so when we left, we were like, man, we need to keep going with this idea, because this idea is solid. Then we were like, okay, let's officially start.
Can I ask what about when? I think let's officially
start. So this was around 2005, 2006.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just like, man, thank you for the experience, but we out. And then we were like,
so did you leave together?
No, everyone left at separate times.
Okay.
I think Dan is the one who finished from KU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we were like, okay, let's do this. And so we started coming together every other weekend to listen to music, to make music, to jam. And then at that time, I think Ogopa DJs had been put, and that was a big influence on us in the beginning. That first album,
Ogopa 1.
Ogopa 1.
The one which has some
techno type stuff.
Yeah,
in all of me.
And there's a lot of techno, yes.
There's a lot of techno.
Lucas had just come back from India, and
really?
he had actually come back from India, and that was his first compilation album.
Like, I literally don't know anything about Ogopa outside of the music, but not necessarily the commercial stuff that they were known for, but more the ideas that maybe they felt like people would not get, which there were like deep cuts in the album.
Yes.
And so those deep cuts are the things that we liked.
So that album had Nina Noki,
which is an epic song.
Too big.
Nina Noki is to me one of the greatest Kenyan songs.
What?
It's in my list of greatest Kenyan songs. Nina Noki is there.
That's crazy. And if you notice that first album, you're speaking to you now, I'm looking at things from the electronic perspective, dance perspective. That album also had some very other non-released songs that didn't per se, they weren't released, but were very heavy on the dance.
Exactly.
In fact, they were dance, call it now, the electronic
dance. And so because
you loved this album.
Exactly, because so now you tie it to, we were listening to a lot of Daft Punk type of Daft Punk, Basement Jacks, Gorillaz.
Yes, Gorillaz.
And then you have Kenyans. I don't know how many Ogopa were, if there was one, because we liked that about them, is like no one knew outside the music, no one knew who this was, because it was all about the music. And
also, you have Kenyans doing what you guys are listening to.
Exactly. And it's like, it has a similar vibe to what we are listening to globally.
Oh my God, that is just, Lucas has touched this whole country. So
that guy should be given his flowers, man.
He should, man. I agree.
I'd love to meet him.
Hey, Lucas, you here? We all love to meet you.
Lucas, whoever you are.
But that it's so incredible. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've never had anybody say that the dance perspective, and I'm not talking about Nina Noki and Tahidi. That's why you know those songs. The song with Amani. Those are the two which are commercially released. You are talking about that whole album.
Yeah.
That's what inspired you.
There's probably, I don't know if there's that song. There's a song It's called Ogopa Funkadelic something.
Like, you see, that's what I'm saying. That's the songs that no one listened to.
Yeah, Ogopa Funky Delic.
Just play a snippet.
I don't even know.
Okay, it's called, but it's called Ogopa.
Ogopa Funky Delic Jazz
Yes.
something. I was like, that is it. So I really appreciated that about them, because all of these things people are doing, they're experimenting. You don't know what people will like, but then sometimes people stop experimenting because you think you've figured out what the people want, and then you stop. But with that particular project, I was happy because they had the Ninanoki type bangers, but they also had these other jams. I was like, yeah.
I hated those jams. I would like to you. I hated them.
And this is the beauty of music. People you'll go to YouTube and you look at any Beyonce song or any Michael Jackson song, and you'll be like, there might be 100k likes, but there's probably also like 20k dislikes.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the beauty of music.
Yep.
It's like, we don't have to all be in it in that sense. It's like, there's people who that idea will not resonate with them, and they'll be like, Beyonce is the worst musician of all time. But then technically, very few people can do what Beyonce can do. And so, like, these kinds of ideas for me is something that is always going to be with me, where I'll trust my gut feeling and be like, oh, okay, I like this. And so it's a leading principle where I like to create things that I want to see exist. So if I want to see it exist, I'll create it. In terms of the songs where, like, even you look at the Just a Band catalog, I'm like, I'm so glad we did some of those jams, because we were not afraid to be like, okay, let's put this out there.
Okay, let's man. So you guys are meeting every weekend.
Every
or
weekend
yeah.
at gyms to listen to vinyl.
And that's now where you come up with this Ogopa. So
Yeah.
what happens after that?
After that, we just started saying, okay, we need to work on an album.